Peace family, welcome, welcome. Today we are in Mother Nature and we're getting a bit professional today. And I know a lot of you are used to seeing me traveling, somewhere in the bush. We're still in the bush, but today we are talking about iridology. Iridology, I keep getting asked this question, what is it, right? So iridology, let's get straight into it. Iridology is the analysis of the colored part of your eye. Now it tells us a lot of information from your strengths to your vulnerabilities, whether it be inherent, whether it be environmental. We can see every single organ in the body and how it feeds back and is reflected in the iris, because every organ is connected through the nerves, through the nervous system, and up from the brain through the optic nerve and reflected into your eye. Remember when we had the computers, those big boxes, right? So the brain is the big box, the eye is the monitor. So it's reflecting to you what's going on inside. Now, all of the tissues in our body are connected through the nervous system, and there are over 500,000 nerves that connect the iris to the brain. And remember, all nerves emanate from or terminate in the brain. The brain knows what's happening in the whole entire body, and your eyes are basically the reflection of that, the monitor to show what is going on. And it's such a powerful tool because it can give us your unique constitution, right? Your unique constitution. What have you come into the world with in terms of strengths, in terms of weaknesses, or vulnerabilities, I should say, because we've all got areas that we are vulnerable in, right? Not every single organ in the body is going to be at its top, optimal functioning. And that's just human nature. But by reading the iris, we can discern and see, okay, this area is lacking in structural integrity, or this area is showing a pigment change. So the textures, the colors, the patterns, they all contribute to the internal. Now, in iridology, we don't give diseases names. We are able to see which tissues are lacking structural integrity, which structures have got some weakness or vulnerabilities to it. And we can see the level of degradation, whether it's acute, so still kind of in its initial stages, or chronic or degenerative, which again is further along the line. Now, what I love about iridology is the simple fact that blood tests do not give us the full picture. Let's go into this a little bit. Now, blood tests are a snapshot of what's going on in many ways. First of all, just the fact that the blood tests are very limited, right? So if you've got an adrenal issue, if you've got a gut issue, you need to now go and spend another £300, £400, £500 or dollars finding another test to go and see what's wrong. But the iris will tell us. It will tell us the progression of dis-ease, not disease, dis-ease, and how it's progressing, because illness does not develop overnight. It is a gradual process. But what happens in the blood test is they miss this gradual progression, and that limited reference interval range that they provide is very redundant, or I should say limited, because first of all, not everyone is operating under those same statistics, right? Especially if you're melanated due to the complex chemistry of melanin, you're going to have different values altogether, right? So first of all, your B12 is going to be higher. So you've got race bias. Those reference values that they provide are not based on what's optimal. They're not based on optimal, vital, vibrant functioning. They are based on a mix of healthy and unhealthy people and what seem to be the normal. However, the body doesn't work like that. We are all completely unique individuals. So the values that they provide in their interval range on the blood reports may not show what's actually optimal. And so I read blood tests and I see that before a thyroid issue shows up on a blood test, it's already been progressing. And so there are different reference ranges we can look at to actually see what's happening in that progressive state. Has it progressed? Is it in a subclinical hypo state where it hasn't fully developed yet, but it's on its way to developing? But again, we can see that in the eyes. The eyes will reveal that because the body's given us feedback, right? So the eyes are going to reveal what is going on. And so while iridology is not a diagnostic tool, it's a highly insightful tool to show us the terrain, the patterns, the imbalances, the stresses that you are being confronted with. Because let's put it like this: if we do a blood test and we see, okay, the liver's out of range, right? Liver values are out of range. Maybe it's GGT, maybe it's ALT, out of range. We can't see what's going on in the gut. We can't see what state the gut is in, because again, that is going to affect your entire health, your entire profile, your health profile, right? And so, yeah, stool tests, they're over $400 or $500 to do. We can see that in the iris. We can see what's going on in the iris, from the congestion in the gut to potential leaky gut to how the gut is showing maybe a spastic pattern. Maybe it could be ballooning. Maybe we can see bowel pockets, and those bowel pockets are showing us where the waste in the intestine is actually bulging and protruding out. These are really vital factors in restoring health. And by just looking at a blood test, we miss out on that information. Okay, so we've spoken about iridology in the sense of why it is the future. Why it is the future. And one amazing aspect of iridology is, as I said, it really tells us inherited predispositions. We have weaknesses that may come through to us, right? And I've seen this. I've seen one of my clients, she had a lung weakness that we could see within the iris region, which I mentioned to her. And her mother actually has lung cancer at this point in time. So your vital capacity, the mucus, everything will be affected within the lungs if, you have that inherent vulnerability. So we can see what's inherent, but guess what? It doesn't mean that that has to become an issue in the future. Now that we have clocked and seen, okay, this area emanating out from the bowel region is showing toxemia in this corresponding organ. Let's spend the rest of our days nurturing this so it doesn't become an issue in the future. And that is the beauty of understanding your unique constitution. Constitution means your strengths and your vulnerabilities. That is the beauty of being able to know, okay, you know what? This area is just an area that I need to work on. It's just me. If, for example, you're just someone who has a slow metabolism, right? You're going to eat accordingly. You're just going to live your life pertaining to supporting what you've come into this world with. And the same goes with iridology. If we can see there is an inherent weakness, if we can see there's an environmental vulnerability, let's start nurturing that. What are we waiting for it to come out of range and for us to need to rely on the allopathic community because it's so far gone because the blood tests haven't clocked it in time? No, this is where we change what's the trajectory for you, right? Again, I had another client, she had signs of fatty plaques building up in her vessels, right? And those fatty plaques, which can surround the ring of the iris, it's generally white. You might see people and they've got like a white ring around their iris. It shows the fatty deposits that are building up. This can be a precursor or an indicator of a future dementia, right? High cholesterol, right? Cardiovascular disease. But guess what? We made a plan. I let her know what's what she needs to do. She messaged me yesterday saying the white rim around my eye has disappeared. She actually said the silver lining. The silver lining around my iris has disappeared. So just like that, we have changed the trajectory for this lady. Just like that, because her mom was suffering from dementia as we were speaking. Just like that, that client has been able to change the trajectory of what was meant to be genetic, what was meant to be a part of her lineage. But by, first of all, identifying that vulnerability, second of all, doing something about it and remaining consistent, different trajectory just like that. Okay? So that is the beauty and the power of iridology. And what I love to do is combine it with tongue analysis, which we'll do a different video on that. But the eye gives us so much information, and I love looking at the tongue because it's so instant in what it's depicting, right? So the eye is kind of like an overview, like a map. What's going on, what has been going on, what you were born with, what environmentally has affected you. But your tongue is like very instantaneous. From day to day, we can see the differences, and then we can correlate that with the eye. Now, how did I get into iridology and tongue analysis? Well, on my travels, I was on a healing journey, right? I had multiple different things going on due to antibiotics damage, due to gut dysbiosis. And a lot of my journey was trying to find out what was wrong. And I just could not, for the life of me, seem to get to the bottom of it. Medical doctors had no clue. I'd went to herbalists. I'd went to homeopaths. I'd went to different supports, and obviously, you know, using my knowledge base and what I knew at that time, which was a lot more limited, I just couldn't seem to get to the bottom of it. And so I started learning how to actually read my body, read my fingernails, read my tongue, read my eyes, read my skin, facial mapping, because the most accurate feedback you have is that. I mean, labs are great in terms of diagnosing an infection, right? But when it comes to metabolic issues that are developing over time, blood tests won't show that. After reading these things and figuring things out, I managed to get some really profound answers which changed the trajectory of my healing journey from stagnant to moving. And then when I had eventually gone and done, you know, the stool testing, I'd done loads of blood tests and things already, but it all literally correlated with what the eye was showing me. And so I just started to realize, okay, you're spending all this money on testing the results to make things even more complicated, because let's be real, there's like a million different values when it comes to that. And the eye, the tongue, the condition of the skin and the body says it all, literally gives us that information. And so when I started to serve my clients and I'm reading their eyes, and sometimes they'd come to me with blood tests, and the things on the blood test had shown up in the eyes, but I would have been able to see what was developing in the iris before it became out of range on the blood test, which is the beauty in iridology, is being able to pre-see what's going on, to foresee what is happening, what's unfolding. So when I'm comparing the blood test to the iridology, I'm seeing, okay, there's a lot of, it's just adding up. But then there was times where the blood test wouldn't show me what was developing, but the iris would. So it's giving me, although this is not quantitative data, I can see qualitatively what is going on. Yeah. And so the numbers and all those things, sometimes it's good to have that stuff, depending on what the issue is. But again, the eye will reveal what is going on in a lot of cases. So there are many different things that the eyes can reveal. So each and every organ and every organ system, it reveals inflammation states, nutrient deficiencies, structural integrity of the tissue changes, stress response, how the body's responding to stress, emotional tendencies as well, because you've got the upper brain, which is split into the physiological side of things and the psychological side of things. One organ will affect another organ. For example, once you have one operation, often they say it's likely to lead on to more. Why? Because each organ intricately is interrelated, interconnected, and highly impact each other. And so, for example, if we look on the bowel wall, the autonomic nerve root in the iris, we can see how that might be affecting the nerve supply to the heart, the nerve supply to the spine, how it's affecting the nerve supply to the bones, to the ligaments, to the tendons. Now, that can give us insight, because if you have an inherent vulnerability in the back area, then guess what? You're not going to be doing an Amazon job lifting stuff, knowing that, okay, the tendons, the vessels, the ligaments connected to that bone are weak. You're going to be able to be discerning enough to know, you know what? My body's saying this, there's no point with going against it. Even with babies, if we were able to actually read what was going on prior to them becoming, adults, we'd be able to nurture them for the whole of their lifetime up to that point into a state of wellness, instead of getting to 17, 18, 19, 20, that's when things start to happen, 25, 30. And then realizing, oh, actually, I've got a weakness in this area. If we just nurtured that for the time being, things wouldn't have got to that point. So I hope you understand my passion towards iridology, reading the eyes, how transformative it has been for me, my clients, my family, because it tells us so much information. And while it's not a diagnostic tool, it gives us information about your terrain, the state of your tissues, and your individual strengths and vulnerabilities. So with that being said, if you'd like to book in for an iridology reading, which comes with your tongue analysis as well, you can click the link below. I can't wait to see what's going on, right? If you have got a deeper issue that we need to work through, book in for the full holistic analysis, 60 to 90 minutes. Or if you just want a summary and overview, you can book in for that as well. That is that, and peace and love. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you in the next video. I want to start recording, so watch out, yeah?